The air is thick with smoke and the stench of blood. A young woman kneels in the dirt of a Beijing alley, her hands bound, her eyes wide with terror. Around her, a crowd chants, their voices rising like a fevered hymn. A man in a red sash steps forward, his blade glinting under the sun. He believes he is possessed by a god, immune to bullets, destined to purge the land of foreign devils. The woman is a missionary's daughter. She is 16. The blade falls. Her scream is swallowed by the crowd's roar. This is not a scene from a nightmare. This is Beijing, 1900. This is the Boxer Rebellion, and the streets are about to run red. History is not a ledger of dates and names. It is a tapestry woven with blood, belief, and betrayal. The Boxer Rebellion of 1899 to 1901 was a moment when desperation and mysticism collided with imperial ambition, birthing a cycle of violence that still haunts the edges of our understanding. Ordinary Chinese peasants, driven by drought, famine, and foreign domination, turned to rituals of possession and slaughter to reclaim their world. The colonial powers Britain, Germany, Japan, and others responded with a vengeance so brutal it reshaped China's future. This is not just a story of rebellion. It is a story of how faith becomes a weapon, how fear becomes a massacre, and how the clash of civilizations leaves scars that never heal. Today, we uncovered the Boxer Rebellion's darkest truths, its rituals, its bloodshed, and its unanswered questions. To understand the Boxer Rebellion, we must first step into the world of late 19th century China. The Qing dynasty, once a titan of global power, was crumbling. By the 1890s, foreign powers, Britain, France, Germany, Russia, Japan, and others had carved China into spheres of influence. Opium flooded the ports, forced upon China after the Opium Wars. Christian missionaries spread across the countryside, preaching a foreign god while protected by foreign guns. Drought and famine gripped Shandong province, leaving peasants starving while foreign railways sliced through their ancestral lands. Into this cauldron of resentment stepped the Yuhequan, the Boxers united in righteousness. They were not soldiers. They were farmers, laborers, and wanderers, bound by a shared belief that China's suffering was the fault of foreign devils and their Christian converts. The Boxers practiced martial arts and mystic rituals, claiming spirit possession by ancient gods. They believed they were invincible, that bullets would turn to water against their skin. Their slogan was simple: support the Qing, destroy the foreigners. By 1899, their movement exploded. Villages became battlegrounds. Churches burned. Missionaries and Chinese Christians were slaughtered in rituals both sacred and savage. The Qing court, torn between fear and opportunism, allied with the Boxers. The foreign powers, sensing a threat to their interests, formed the Eight-Nation Alliance. What followed was a collision of worlds, one driven by mystic fury, the other by colonial greed. The rebellion began in Shandong, where drought had left fields barren and bellies empty. The Boxers, initially a small sect, gained followers as they attacked Christian villages. Their rituals were chilling. Initiates drank charmed water, entered trances, and claimed possession by deities like the Monkey King or the Jade Emperor. They hacked apart missionaries with swords, believing each death restored China's spiritual balance. A German missionary, Georg Stenz, narrowly escaped in 1898 when Boxers burned his church, killing 2 converts. His account, later published, described a frenzy of bloodlust, as if the air itself demanded sacrifice. By summer 1900, the Boxers had marched to Beijing, swelling to tens of thousands. They laid siege to the foreign legations, trapping diplomats, missionaries, and their families in a fortified compound. For 55 days, the legations endured relentless assaults. Boxers chanted, "Kill the foreign devils," as they fired rifles and lobbed firebombs. Inside, starvation set in. A British diplomat, Sir Claude MacDonald, wrote, "We eat horseflesh now." The children cry for bread we cannot give. Outside the legations, Beijing became a slaughterhouse. Chinese Christians were beheaded in public squares. One account from a Qing official described a boxer ritual. Victims were tied to poles, their bodies slashed in patterns to release foreign spirits. The Empress Dowager Cixi, ruling from the Forbidden City, tacitly supported the boxers, declaring war on the foreign powers in June 1900. The response was swift and merciless. The eight-nation alliance, Britain, Germany, Japan, Russia, France, the United States, Italy, and Austria-Hungary stormed Tianjin and marched to Beijing. On August 14, 1900, they broke the siege. What followed was not liberation, but retribution. German troops, under Kaiser Wilhelm II's orders to be like Huns, looted homes and executed suspected boxers without trial. Russian soldiers burned villages. A French missionary reported, the streets were choked with bodies, some so mangled they could not be identified. The alliance's brutality extended beyond Beijing. In Shaanxi province, Governor Yuxian oversaw the execution of 44 missionaries, including women and children, before the alliance arrived. In retaliation, foreign troops massacred entire villages. One British officer, Captain Francis Brinkley, wrote, "We killed without distinction." It was as if the earth demanded blood to match the boxers' own. The rebellion collapsed by September 1900, but the cost was staggering. Estimates suggest 100,000 civilians, boxers and Chinese Christians died, alongside thousands of foreign troops. The Boxer Protocol, signed in 1901, forced China to pay 450 million taels of silver in reparations. Foreign troops occupied Beijing until 1902, and the Qing dynasty's legitimacy crumbled, paving the way for its fall in 1911. One of the rebellion's darkest episodes was the Taiyuan massacre in Shaanxi province. On July 9, 1900, Governor Yuxian ordered the execution of 44 foreign missionaries and their families. Among them were 12 children, the youngest a 3-year-old girl. A survivor, missionary Rowena Bird, recounted, "They made us kneel in the courtyard. The boxers sang as they killed, their swords rising and falling like a rhythm. The children's cries stopped one by one. The massacre was not random." Yuxian, a Qing loyalist, believed the missionaries' presence angered the gods, causing the drought. The boxers performed rituals before each killing, burning incense and chanting to purify the land. The bodies were left in the open, a warning to others. Rowena Bird, missionary survivor, "I still hear the children's voices in my dreams." The boxers believed they were saving China. They were drowning it in blood. The Boxer Rebellion was not just a political uprising. It was a psychological unraveling. The boxers' rituals, drinking charmed water, entering trances, reflect the desperate need to reclaim agency in a world dominated by foreign powers. Anthropologist Arthur Kleinman argues that such rituals were a collective catharsis, channeling centuries of humiliation into violence. The boxers saw themselves as divine instruments, purging a corrupted land. Their belief in invulnerability, though disproven by bullets, reveals a profound faith born of despair. The colonial response was equally telling. The eight-nation alliance's brutality was not just strategic, it was performative. Kaiser Wilhelm's Hun speech and the looting of Beijing's treasures were acts of cultural domination, meant to humiliate as much as to conquer. Historian Jonathan Spence notes, the alliance violence was a mirror to the boxers, on a cycle of retribution that left no one clean. What does it mean to believe so fiercely that you would kill for it? The boxers saw their rituals as salvation, their blades as justice. The colonial powers saw their guns as civilization, their vengeance as righteousness. Both sides claimed divine sanction, yet both left behind rivers of blood. The Boxer Rebellion forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. History's darkest moments are not born of evil alone. but of conviction unchecked. What gods do we serve today, and what sacrifices do we demand in their name? The streets of Beijing are silent now, but their echoes linger, asking questions we cannot answer. The young woman